What's up, motherfuckers? The Grandmaster Danill Yuffa had qualified to the next round of the World Cup in the tiebreaks, and he qualified thanks to a very good game that he won in the Alekhine with the Alekhine. So let's analyze the game. A part of show us the game, I'm going to show us a little bit how to play the Alekhine. So let's see the game, and especially the 4 pawns variation. Okay, e4, knight f6, e5 is too strange to see Alekhines in Grandmaster top level. But okay, this is a rapid game, and sometimes in rapid the Alekhine was fine. Knight d5, d4, d6, c4, knight b6, and here, okay, main or the other main option was take on d6, but his opponent decided to play f4. That's the 4 pawns variation, one of the most aggressive, well, maybe the most aggressive variation against the Alekhine. Uh, d takes e5, f takes knight c6, bishop e3. Here, important to know not game with knight f3 so early because black can develop the bishop on g4. So was stronger first develop the bishop, and now still developing this knight. And finally, yes, bishop e2. And now with the bishop on e2 and with the bishop on f5, now play knight f3. Short castle. Yes, short castle. Okay, if black plays f6 first, you should go short castle first instead of take here, because now black can go long castle with a better position. So short castle, that's the main line. F6, it takes bishop f takes f6, and queen e2. That's the main position of the 4 pawns variation. Uh, there are let's see how many games. There are like hundred of games with this. Oh, no, not so much. There are like yes, hundreds of games with this position. Here black have many ways to play. For example, one was queen e8. Here I'm going to recommend bishop g5. I really like this move, trading this pair of bishops. Other way was h6, preparing queen e8 without allowed bishop g5. Now, okay, white plan is more or less the same, just rook d1. Used to be king h1, used to be a useful move. h3 used to be useful. You should learn well the order, but these are the typical moves. And sometimes the queen goes here or here to open this fight for the rook. This bishop used to be to f2 sometimes. Trade bishop with bishop d3 used to be, yes, used to be in benefit of white. But okay, I'm going to focus on queen e7, who is the main move. Rook a1, rook a8. And here white, that's the main position. And here white should choose what to do. The most employed move for all the life was queen c1, who is bad. Okay, I understand that white wants to put his queen away of this open d5. But the problem of queen c1 is this fourth line who give black a position so close to the equal, with e5, d5, knight d4, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, this pawn sacrifice. But now black have an interesting idea with bishop g5, and the queen should go to a1. You didn't want to have your queen on a1. Of course, knight a4, very good move too. Because okay, if you take here the bishop is hanging on it too. So bishop f3, bishop e3, king h1, bishop takes, rook takes, knight c3, b takes, and rook d8. And here the position is close to be equal. Okay, white have an extra pawn, but the position is so close to equal because okay, white have this double pawns, black have the open file. So black is close to be equal. Okay, here bishop f2 is another normal move. Like I commented, bishop f2 used to be normal. And here, okay, rook d7 was the normal move. Well, it's fine, but black here have this extra option with g5. Interesting, d5. Okay, d5 is a forced move. Well, black is attacking in the king side, so you should break the center. d5, and now knight d5 would be a good move for g4. Is the other option. And trade everything here, but I prefer knight d5 here. I don't like so much d4. Or yeah, or just you can play. I'm going to recommend us more rook d7. The machine prefer the move g5, but I think that in the practice rook d7 was easier to play. So I'm going to recommend us g5. h3 here was another normal move. Bishop d6, but the problem is after king h1, now black can sacrifice on d4, followed by e5. Knight takes, bishop takes, rook f8, and yes, the position is equal. And the best move here If you want to play that with white, you should learn this move with king h1. That's the best move of the position. If black plays king h8, just making the same, where just okay, still improving the position a little bit with h3. This is the typical moves. h6, still improving, and now bishop g1. Now the bishop, okay, here is not, doesn't matter if the bishop is aiming here, the bishop is safer on g1, and apart is giving the e3 square for the queen one day. Rook d7, c5, knight d5, and like I told, in this position benefits white to play bishop d3. When you can play bishop d3, you should play it in the Alekhine. Okay, sometimes it's not easy because the d4 pawn is under attack. But in this salty position, when you can play bishop d3 in the Alekhine, you should play it. Okay, let's see more options after king h1. For example, if h6, now you can play or h3 or queen c1 with the same idea, but now the king is in h1, and the e5 idea is not going to work. h3, bishop g1, bishop h7, that this is the typical moves. And here we have this idea of c5 and bishop b5. Or for example, if bishop g4, just and another thing so typical in the Alekhine is when black plays bishop g4, you should play knight d4. That's another so typical concept. After bishop g4, knight d4. This concept is so typical. Here, and we can just take here and take with the pawn. Okay, but Shiyam Tabandiran, the opponent of Danill Yuffa, played b3, and here Yuffa reacted with h6. The problem of b3 so early is that here black have the idea of knight before and enter on. Yes, yeah, but the idea of knight before is one day will enter on c2 if white plays rook e1. If not, no. If not, have no sense. But if black plays rook e1, you can play knight c2. For the reason rook e1 is not going to be possible never. And apart, you are having this extra option of play c5. Now the real threat in this position is c5. For that reason, white here should play queen c1 and now knight d7. And e5 or c5 are going to be played in one day. Um, okay, I not talk about the advantage or disadvantages of this position. In general, the white advantage is that he has more space in the center, and these two center pawns with so space. And apart, the six pawn, the black pawn structure is worse. But in the other hand, black have great pressure into the center. So the machine always is going to say that the Alekhine is better for white and this position is so much better for white. But in the practice, it's difficult to play with white because black is putting so much pressure into the center. So okay, let's still analyzing the game. b3, Yufa goes with h6. Yes, h6. Night before was slightly better, but okay, h6. Here, okay, h3, queen c1 is the other move, but h3 was fine. And again, knight before was stronger. Instead of that, Yufa still playing normal move, king h8, king h1. We saw that these moves are so typical in this position. H6, h3, and king h8, king h1. But this all because the absence of the f2 and f7 pawn. When these diagonals are open, it used to be useful to play king h8 or king h1. Always. Now, in general, when you move the f pawn and when you haven't the f pawn, your king is going to be safe on the h file. Here again, was a stronger knight before to play by Yufa. That's a very good square for the knight. Instead of that, he played bishop d6, which is a mistake because here we have the idea that I mentioned some moments ago, bishop d3. That's when you can play bishop d3, you should make it. This helps so much the white position to trade this pair of bishops because now the light squares are going to be weak. This pawn are going to be weaker. You want the a4 square for the knight or the a4 square for the queen, who is never going to be attacked. So bishop d3 here was the best. Or bishop or queen c1 was fine too. Instead of that, um, Shiyam goes with queen e1. Who in some lines are fine, but in this specific black setup, the queen is bad place on e1. Bishop h5. And now I comment that when black plays bishop h5, or sorry, I comment that when black plays bishop g4, now the e4 square is free and we should land with the knight 3-4. But in this specific position, this move doesn't work because yes, black can take on f3 and then take on d4. That's why here this ideas doesn't work. Here was stronger, or just play queen f2, who is the just the logical move. Who follow queen e1. The idea of queen e1 is play queen f2 and defend the d4 pawn from f2 at the same time that you are defending with the rook. But it's a good defensive idea. If you manage to play queen e1 and queen f2, is fine because you are defending with these two pieces, the d4 pawn. Now both two pieces are defending, but the problem is that the queen is in front of the rook, who is bad. So queen e1 is good, but if you follow by queen f2, or g4 here was another possibility. But okay, queen f2 is the most solid move, and white is better here. Shiyam goes with 94, who is a mistake. And after that, Yuffa start to play very good. Bishop f3. Here, okay, bishop takes was a little bit better. If knight takes, knight f6, knight f3, rook take. Okay, we can trade all these pieces, and after queen h5, we have enough counterplay to, I suppose, make the draw. Because okay, there's knight is still bad play here. This pawn change is so good. This bishop is fine here, attacking both sides, and mm, the queen center on e8. So white have enough counterplay to maintain the equal. But okay, it's not easy to analyze all this line. Of course, in a rapid game, he take with the rook, who looks okay normal too. Bishop d4, rook f8, queen f8. And here, okay, let's stop a moment in this position because now black have take a pawn, and you could think that black is better because he just take the central pawn. But it's not really true because white have the bishop pair in counter of that. And the other thing is that the two knights, especially the b6 knight, are a little bit misplaced in the queen side, and white have some good pieces in the center. So, and especially the light squares are open here. So in this position is more or less equal. Black had won a pawn, but white is still having a decent position. Okay, bishop g4 here was an option, but he played bishop c1, maintaining the bishop pair. Very good idea of Shiyam. 97, and here, okay, queen g4 was stronger. He played bishop g4, queen e7 before. So the problem is that here the black player starts to play so well. Yufa start to make very good moves. So Shiyam hadn't make any mistake, but he all the time he's playing the second best move of the machine, and Yufa is playing the best. So bishop g4, queen e7 before, knight f6, mm, b5, knight e5, and let's see that finally black managed to play well his two knights, who 4 moves ago was on b6 and on c6 misplaced, and now the knights are on f6 and on e5. Very good, very good improvement of black, and now black is better because he just improved his knights. Okay, he should take bishop e2, c5, very good move, b takes, queen a5, c5, bishop f4. And here Yufa made his maybe his first mistake and only of the game with rook f8. The problem is of this move is just he blunder rook d4. It's simple. Yeah, you cannot take because I can take on e5 with I don't know which piece. And if you play knight g6, try to attack the rook and the bishop, okay, just queen c5 and you take there, but rook e4 and the position is equal. So bishop g4, Shiyam missed the tactic. He played bishop g3, queen g5, queen e3, rook f6, and here the last white opportunity was h4. This tactic queen f5 and just take on h7. That's the last opportunity of black. The problem is that after queen b3, just rook g6, and you cannot move the bishop because the g2 pawn is hanging. So he just try to, and if king here, I think that maybe bishop f2 here looks winning. So bishop g4, he just tried that, but just he take the pawn and he made checkmate. So the last white opportunity was here with h4 and queen a7. But okay, in general, I really like this game of Yufa to show us some of the ideas that I know about the 4 pawns variation in the Alekhine. So I hope that you learn with this game, and okay, thanks to this victory, Daniel Yufa advanced to the next round in the World Cup. So let's see how continue the tournament. Bye bye, motherfuckers.